night.
Yeah, look, this is John. These are smart guys. They got smart guys in that front office. They have Lee Jenkins they're in that office. He's a brilliant writer. Like everybody knows how this is going to play. They know they're walking into a bad situation. Lawrence Frank's been in the league forever. Trent Redden's been in the league forever. Like they have a very good front office. So like what you're about to do.
Everybody keeps saying that.
I know
that the Clippers have this great front office based on what?
I mean, I don't know. I think they're smart in how they read it.
Well, they can be as smart as they want. They lose all the time.
Yeah.
They just lose. Screw up Blake Griffin. Screw up Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Screw up everything. You are an apologist for the Clippers, and you're not the only one.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, the media is in love with that front office because, like you say, they got nice guys over there. Lawrence Frank's a good guy. Lee Jenkins is a good guy. You know what? There are a lot of good guys. They're both – I mean, how can a logical person not say these guys are bad at their jobs? They just are.
Well, if
They're
you're
bad
going
at
on
their
results
jobs.
this year, I think you have to
Clipper fans.
Yeah, look, this year I think they messed up on the roster. I mean,
You
but
think?
But I think look at this. This is all going back to the original sin of trading for Paul George and trading all those picks and all those and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and all that. All of this is them digging out of that hole. And each year they've tried to make it work with those two guys, and then they finally let Paul go because they read the market correctly that he's not worth that max salary. That'll sink them. They traded for Harden because they were like, okay, we're trying to make these 3 stars work one last time, and all those. I think those were all sound decisions. I don't have any issue with those decisions. It just hasn't worked.
You
this
don't?
Year. No,
they have the oldest team in the league. What did you think was going to happen?
This year, I agree.
Right.
I agree. That's been messed up. But in the past, I thought it was a smart thing to trade for James Harden. I thought that was good
Harden's
to let
been great.
Paul George has been nothing in Philly. I think they read that right. I mean, those were the right calls. It just goes back to that original sin. It's the Kawhi Leonard Paul George summer of 2019. It's that trade, and you're trying to dig yourself out every year because you've given up so many assets in those trades. I think they made good trades when they got Norm Powell. I understand why they traded him this summer. I don't agree with it, but I understand it because they were trying to prioritize cap space. They don't want to give him an extension, et cetera. That didn't work out. John Collins hasn't been the answer there. I mean, this year has been a disaster on every level. And I think they got to own it.
So you were asking me, John, before we get to Dave Roberts and this question about a baseball salary cap, why I think the Clippers front office has been perceived as smart. And I think there's a lot of layers to this. First of all, I think individually there are some people involved with the organization that are smart people. I think Lee Jenkins is a really smart guy. I think Lawrence Frank is a smart guy. They've got smart people in there. I think they've tried to be an innovative.
So why do they do so much stupid stuff?
Well, here's the thing. There's an origin story to a lot of this in context. First of all, they were often seen, I think in the beginning, they were seen as smart in part because they managed to land Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in a deal that, like we talked about, was very celebrated at the time. I think also, too, if we're really being honest about this, they spent many years locally being compared against the Lakers front office that went through several years of chaos and, moves like, say, bringing in Russell Westbrook, which was insanely risky with a lot of reasons very obvious that it wouldn't likely work. And things like that, I think, sort of by comparison, made the Clippers front office look good. They are also, John, working against, as former President George W. Bush once said, the soft bigotry of low expectations. And, I mean, for real, they spent several years being one of the absolute worst franchises in sports, much less the NBA, much less LA sports. So the fact that they became, I think, legitimately competent helped raise the image of what the front office was doing. I also think, too, they had a lot of years where they managed to maximize and win a fair amount of regular season games despite a lot of injuries. And probably a lot of that is more due to Ty Lue than the front office, but they ended up getting credit for that because the seasons would be, I think, as a whole, successful.
All right, here's my response to that. Most teams, Mason and I always stole a line from Marty Schottenheimer and said, every team at all points is either getting better or getting worse. The Clippers are clearly getting worse.
Oh, yes, they are.
Okay? They're 5, or now they won last night, so they're 6-16. They have the oldest team in the NBA. They have the aspiration scandal hanging over their heads. They completely mishandled the Chris Paul situation.
Yes, they did.
Very easily. You knew what you were getting when you bought, it's like if you go out with someone and they're an alcoholic and they get drunk when you're out and then you act surprised, that's on you.
Absolutely.
So
I would think they brought in Chris Paul specifically
Andy,
for the leadership. I would figure that's why they brought him in.
Example after example of how they're getting worse. And Emily, didn't you send me a story this morning that they're talking to their front office about extensions?
Correct. That was in the Athletic reporting that they're thinking about extending Lawrence Frank.
So, Andy, that's fine. If you think that type of decision-making is, well, look what happened with aspiration. Look what happened with Chris Paul. Look what happened with the oldest roster in the league. And then they act surprised when everyone gets hurt. And you want to keep going with these people, more power to you.
Well, no. Look, I think there is a period where the Clippers front office was making good decisions. I think the last few years has given plenty of, if nothing else, pause for extending Lawrence Frank. I'm not saying I would do that. I also think, though, to some degree, this is on Steve Ballmer, because were I to guess.
Of course it is.
But I was going to say specifics with some of their moves. Were I to guess, I think the biggest mistake the Clippers have made, like globally, if you look at sort of big picture the last 5 or 6 years, really since the Paul George, Kawhi Leonard era began, the biggest mistake they made was not getting into the era. We agree. Everybody would have done the same thing. The mistake was they've been doubling and tripling down on it, and I wonder how much of that is directly related to the Intuit Dome opening and Steve Ballmer not wanting a rebuilding starless team for part of that building. Like, I wonder how many of the decisions,
I get it.
And I'm not defending it. So it's clear. I'm not defending it. I'm saying I think a lot of the front office decisions have been based off the idea of we need to seem like we need to cosplay competitive, even though this thing clearly isn't working.
The way the media, and I'm just talking about the media, not fans. Fans know the Clippers are bad. But the media looks at the Clippers front office and says, oh, yeah, that's a great front office, really solid, doing a good job. They're just not. And I don't understand smart people in the media that keep defending that front office. Because the thing about sports, Andy, is you have a record. You know, it's the old Bill Parcells line. Your record is, like, you can't say they're 6-16, but there's really smart guys in the front office. They're 6-16.
Their decisions this offseason, and I said it in real time, I thought were bad decisions. Like, this was...
It was Chris Paul, Bradley Beal, and Brook Lopez, all over 30, and they are all no longer playing or out of the rotation.
And now 2 of them are gone, and Brook Lopez is benched.
And also, too, and this is where, again, I don't know how much of this is front office miscalculating, how much of this is driven by Steve Ballmer, but when they didn't extend... They traded Norm Powell because they didn't want
Another
to extend
stupid decision,
right.
by the way.
And it's financially...
He wanted to stay.
Right, and it's financially driven. And you can't do, you're a Breaking Bad fan, half measures. Trading Norm Powell because you don't want to pay him at a time where you're also looking to be competitive, so you bring in John Collins, Chris Paul, Brook Lopez, trying to essentially create in the aggregate a substitute for Norm Powell, that's bad half measures. And if that was the front office instigating it, then they
Of course it was the front office. Who else would it be?
Well, it could be Steve Ballmer saying, I don't want to pay Norm Powell down the road. Figure out a way
then what is he paying Lawrence Frank for? If Ballmer made that decision, here's the thing. I'll defend him a little bit on the Norm Powell thing because, like, you couldn't sign Norm for what you paid John Collins, Chris Paul, and Bradley Beal. What they were trying to do was protect their cap sheet. Sure. They wanted to be off of all those contracts when all the big free agents come. And hey, Andy, if they turn around and trade for Giannis and figure out a way to get him, then I'll eat my words and say They were playing the long game, and I was an idiot for criticizing them.
I-
But they don't have any
luck with that.
picks.
No, they're not going to do that. That's...
And so I just don't see a mechanism for which they could do it.
Again, the last couple years, I think, have been pretty brutal for the Clippers front office. So if nothing else, they've lost their fastball.
Yeah, if Rob Pelinka was 6-16, every one of your Locked On Lakers shows would be pitchforks for
Rob
going
Pelinka.
after Rob.
I mean, frankly, Rob Pelinka has been 6-16 before, and the pitchforks were out for him. I mean, the Russ era was pretty brutal, and that was an absolute own goal. That was a totally unnecessary mistake that everybody could see coming, and they managed to pivot out of it, and things have worked out, and it's great. But that trade basically slammed the door shut on the LeBron AD era. Like, that basically closed the window.
Right. But, look, I mean, Rob turned around and got him Luka.
Sure.
So the question is, do you have the right people in place in the Clipper front office, Lawrence Frank and his staff, to fix the mess that they
I would
created?
be holding off on an extension. I'll say that much.
I would too, but they're not.
It's
It's such a disconnect. If you or I did our jobs the way that they've done their jobs, not only would we not get extensions, we'd be on the street.
I would hesitate right now before giving an extension. I do agree with you on that.
And they're very nice guys over there. They're good people. But the thing about sports is you're judged on results. Apparently, unless you work for the Clippers, and then you can do whatever you want.
I cannot believe that the problem, though, is
we are not in a vacuum.
We do not live in a vacuum.
Yes, thank you.
The Clippers have shown no ability or discipline to know when to fold them and when to stop doubling and tripling down.
Yesterday I took a very unpopular position.
I heard.
I don't know. It was a very classic John Ireland. Momo thinks the Clippers are the greatest front office. I think they're terrible.
877.
Right? Yeah, I mean, that's not exactly what I said. Okay, let's put it that.
Wait, are you saying John removed the subtleties?
Yeah,
and just so you know, he brought it up again today because he was talking about how can the Clippers be smart if they do so many dumb things?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I just got caught in the Ireland aggregation. That's the Ireland aggregation. Right? Sometimes I get caught in an aggregation cycle.
Ireland,
this is John Ireland aggregation.
Ireland is our in-house aggregator.
It's amazing.
What say you?
I don't agree with what they did to Chris Paul. I think that was not handled well.
No.
I appreciate that Lawrence Frank was trying to do it in person. You flew there in Atlanta. But just wait till he gets off the road trip. Or wait till you can trade him or have a graceful exit. Like, this was not graceful by any sense of the means, okay? Any sense of the means? Is that an expression I just made up? I don't know.
Was there an urgency to have it done that day?
I think literally just because they had lost 8 in a row. And they wanted to get it done, not on a game day, not the idea was right, but even on a road trip, like, I would have just waited till you got home.
Yeah, what's the difference between 8 in a row and 10 in a row?
I mean, a lot. It sucks exponentially more each time you keep losing. And also, like, they just don't want to give their pick to the Thunder. If there's a chance they can sort of resurrect, maybe they can make a 10 seed.
That is, if that is a factor in their planning moving forward, then I am strongly on the Ireland side of these people are doing bad business. This is a bad front office. You are giving up that pick regardless.
Yeah, but it's very different if it's top 3.
No, it's only different if you're listening to people dunking on you. You're still losing the pick regardless. It's a sunken cost. You are better off getting assets for, say, James Harden that you can use to build towards something moving forward than trying to make sure you're not a meme.
Yeah. Okay, so my point on the Clipper front office, is all of this comes back to the corrupt bargain that was made in 2019 when they just believed Kawhi and Uncle Dennis that he wouldn't sign there if they didn't also trade for Paul George. Yeah. Call his bluff. He was not going to the Lakers. I'm telling you. He was never going to play for the Lakers. It was not.
If anybody cared about the receipts, you can hear me saying at the time, I thought Kawhi was leveraging the Lakers.
100%.
I can't think of a superstar who would enjoy being a Laker less than Kawhi Leonard.
He did not want to play with LeBron in that role. I don't see it. And I just trust your instincts there. I could have seen him go back to Toronto, but for a year.
Sure.
But okay, fine. But that trade, if they call his bluff, like the Lakers did that with Anthony Davis and LeBron. It was the exact same scenario with LeBron. the Spurs tried to leverage the Lakers, saying you're not going to get LeBron unless you trade for Kawhi. Remember that when Kawhi asked out? Kawhi asked out that summer.
Yes.
2018.
Yeah, I vaguely remember.
Okay.
I remember him asking out. I don't remember exactly the Kawhi.
I remember it very
LeBron
vividly.
event.
I was in Oregon over 4th of July weekend, and I was fielding calls the entire time. So I remember this very vividly.
Oh, you mean when everyone thought LeBron was not going to sign with the Lakers unless he had a running mate? And at the time, everybody thought the running mate would be Paul George.
Yeah. First it was going to be Paul George. Then they kind of messed that up. And then it was going to be Kawhi. And the Spurs were basically like, you're not just trading for Kawhi. You're trading for Kawhi and LeBron James. Right. And that was a very good negotiating tactic. But Rob Pelinka was like, no, we're trading. We're just getting LeBron as a free agent. And if we can trade for Kawhi, cool. But we're not. It's not a package deal. So like they wanted everything the Lakers had for Kawhi for 1 year of Kawhi, by the way, and thinking like LeBron wouldn't come without a running mate. And they called the bluff, and they were right. LeBron came anyway.
Well, I mean, we talked about this before with John, and John even agreed with this. I'm not going to crush the Clippers for the original trade because at the time, everybody thought it made sense. It was a big move for them. Kawhi was coming off Finals MVP. Paul George was third in MVP.
He was still really good.
Right. Like, I have no issue with the trade itself.
I do, but now looking back on it, you're like, oh, my God.
Sure.
Could they have saved one or two of those picks?
Right. But at the time, though,
yeah,
it didn't seem outrageous. This is also back when these, like, blockbuster give up 7 or 8 picks. Like,
yeah, that was happening.
That was much more common. I don't have an issue with the trade itself. The issue I have with the Clippers has been more over the last 3-4 years when they've continually doubled and tripled down on something that was not going to work. It was very obvious. And
I got to be honest. They went to the Western Conference Finals with Kawhi and Paul.
Not with Kawhi.
In 2021. He was there for most of that playoff run. He got hurt in that Utah series. It was the second round. He helped them beat Dallas. He got them through most of that Utah series.
But the reasons, though, that it wasn't working were the stuff you can't control.
Yeah, you can't control injuries.
Right.
But they still had a crack at it every single year. They got really close that 1 year. So you know that if Kawhi and Paul were healthy at the right time, that mix worked. That could have been a championship team. They got close, and they never had even been to a conference finals.
But here's the thing, though: they got close in 2021. That was the year where they lost in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
From 2021 onward, they've been running in place, and they keep doubling.
I like that Norm Powell trade. I like the other trades that they did.
Like the Norm Powell. To me,
was great for them.
That was a half measure. Oh, you mean trading him in?
No, yeah, trading him in when they got him.
But
on the way out, no, I hated that trade.
Right.
Yeah.
And that to me was a half measure deal. Like
I think they just went bad this past offseason. I think they did well from 2019 until this offseason, and they went the wrong direction this offseason.
Okay, coming up next, I want to ask you a question, though, about the Clippers' moves that's I think, at least in my opinion, the stuff that I think they've done wrong has been guided by one specific issue, and then we want to talk a little bit about Giannis and where he could end up